rode for like another. It rode for a solid 5 minutes on the floor, you know, just back and forth and to and fro, and I thought, man, we got to get some video of this, and I've got it. It's in my video there on YouTube, and I even had some guys that made a documentary and featured it in the end of it.
Well, out of curiosity, Ronnie, I mean, have you took anything like put a cell phone next to it or a radio next to it and see if you get any weird interference or anything like that? Has anybody done anything like that?
Yeah, I took some scientific stuff down there, and we were checking out some of the magnetic. It's got some strange magnetic fields around it, and we were checking it out with an oscilloscope, you know, like they use to check engine magnetism and stuff like that. And it's got some strange magnetic fields around it. And this thing had been dormant for like 10 years. So one of the first things I did, I had a 100,000 volt Tesla coil, and I set the Tesla coil up, and we shot 100,000 volts of electricity into it for several minutes to see if we could get some kind of a charge out of it. And then I took the weight of it and I measured it and I put it all in the video for researchers to look at. And I took a radiation reading of it because Jim had never checked it for radiation. I'm like, Jim, that thing could be radioactive as hell. And I said, we need to check it. And it seems to have like a very low level radiation to it, nowhere near dangerous. But it seemed like it had a low level radiation, and it seemed like certain areas of it were more intense than others. And it's got this round sleeve that it looks like it goes plumb through the ball, and it is cut so fine that your fingernail can barely feel it. And I showed the pictures to my brother-in-law, who's a machinist, and he said they have some equipment right now that can make that kind of cut, but it couldn't go plumb through the ball. And I said, well, whatever did this cut was probably 15, 20 years ago. And he goes, no. He said, 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have anything that could make a cut that precision on anything. And
well, that is, you know what, though? Again, you know, putting in a high charge of voltage and something like that, you know, what would happen if you would have took out half of Texas or half the United States by doing that?
Well, you know, when I was researching the Betz Spear, supposedly the Betz Spear had two other balls in it, and they were such heavy elements that they could tell on X-ray. There was a university physicist warned against cutting the thing open. He said, you know, we don't know for a fact that elements that heavy would be even stable in the Earth's atmosphere, and it could cause like a nuclear explosion. And so many people have warned us, don't even think about cutting into this thing. So right now we're wanting to get some, and I've got somebody that's volunteered to do some X-raying on it, that X-ray pipelines, and are capable of shooting through like 1.5 inches of steel. And I'm hoping we can get that done here pretty quick to see if there is anything in it like they found in the original Betz Spear that was from the back in the 70s.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's a pretty fascinating deal, you know, and I'm lucky to be involved in it. And like I said, the only reason I'm involved in it is because I met this guy, because one of my UFO sightings is like a mile from his house. So
now, have you had any other things strange UFO happen? I mean, since then or anything?
Oh yeah, Gary, it just gets weirder. It gets weirder, Gary.
Well, go ahead. We got plenty of time.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're still, you know, and as crazy as it sounds, it gets a lot weirder than that. And it seems like exactly 1 year from the date I survived the alien home invasion. 1 year to the day. I'm working in my truck. I'm working out in the middle of nowhere. I'm working nights. You know, I have to work 3 days and 2 nights every week. I'm just a poor guy. I work for a living, you know, and I go out. I was going out to this rural lease out in Coleman, and I haven't seen anything in a year. And a lot of my sightings are a year apart. For some reason, it's like, almost like a year to the day, and very strange. And it was like a year to the day that last happened. I went out, and I hadn't seen anything. wasn't expecting to see anything. I had almost given up any hope that I'd ever see anything like that again. And I go to this rural lease out in Coleman County, Texas, about 10 miles out of Coleman. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. And I go out there, and I'm on the phone with a buddy of mine. And as I'm driving up to the tank battery that's on a gravel road in a private property. And I'm on the phone, and all of a sudden I see these 3 bluish white lights like I've seen on all the UFOs that I've seen. And they rose up from the ground, and they started moving over the treetops. And these treetops, these things ain't 20 feet tall. So this thing come up off the ground, it started moving over these trees, and it was going to come right over the top of my truck. So I told my friend, I said, "Oh my God, there's a UFO out here. I got to go, man. I got to hang." I hung up, and by then I've been practicing getting my phone up and going quickly so I could get a picture, because I'm determined to get some pictures of this stuff. MUFON has been encouraging me to try to get some pictures, because nobody wants to believe. If you ain't got pictures, nobody wants to believe you. So I'm determined to get some pictures. I'm hanging out of the window, the driver's side window, up to my waist, waiting for trying to get my camera to open up. I'm going to get a picture of this thing flying right over the top of me. And all of a sudden the lights on it just go out. They just go, oh, just frustrating. They just go out. And I'm like, dadgummit, you know. But I had a feeling this thing was still around. So I stopped my truck at the battery, I jump out of my truck, and I run up on top of the tanks, and I'm looking around on top of the tanks. It's they're about 15 foot off the ground, so you get a good view up there. So I run up there, and I'm looking around, and I see the strangest thing. There's these little specks of light in the air everywhere, and they're just like blinking on and off, and they're little specklets. I don't know how to describe it. You know, there was a guy I was talking to one time. He said it sounds like nuclear lightning. He said they see it in the CERN collider, and he said that sounds like what you said. And I'm saying it may be, I don't know, but if these little specks of light were just flashing everywhere, and I got my phone out and I tried to take a video of it, because I thought, man, this is the oddest phenomena I've ever seen. It's just everywhere, these little specks of light going on and off. And I was hoping to catch it, but the video didn't come out really all that great. You really couldn't see it as good as you could see it there with the naked eye. And then finally they stopped. And I thought, you know, I bet you anything, this thing is still around. And so I started trying to do my job and stuff. And all of a sudden, a ways from me out there, all of a sudden the lights come on over the trees, and I'm going, there she is. So she's still there. Same craft I've seen. And man, I got my phone out, and I was catching some. I caught a picture, and I caught another picture, and later I would regret it, because these are stupid pictures of lights out over the field. But I'm so excited to be catching a picture of anything, you know, that I'm just like burning up. I'm burning up my my photo memory, because this is 2011. In 2011, you know, smartphones hadn't come out. And I was carrying this Motorola Tundra cell phone. It's like a military grade cell phone, and it was a top of the line phone at that time. And the reason that I had spent the extra money is because I'm seeing some stuff, and I'm wanting to catch some stuff. So I've got the best phone that you can get at that time, and so I'm catching some pictures of these lights out in the darkness, and screwing myself, because I'm going to run out of memory and miss some shots later. But I'm catching this thing, you know, and then all of a sudden this thing goes out again. It blinks out. And I'm going, crap. You know, at least I got some pictures of it. And a little bit later, this thing, it came on again out there, and I'm going, all right. And then I seen it. It dropped down to the ground again. It was through some mesquite trees. You could see it. And I got my phone up and running. And as my video started recording, this thing did like a leapfrog move. It went about 200 yards. It shot up in the air just over the treetops, and then went down again and landed on the ground 200 yards away. And it did all this within about a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds tops. It just like did a giant leapfrog move. And I caught it. My video was running, and I was excited, man. I was like, wow, I just got that on video. And then the thing sat on the ground for a second, and then it shot up in the air, and you can see it changing colors, like a disc that was like blue and yellow and green and red, and then it took off. It went a mile in about 2 seconds. And like I said, I play with RC rockets, with model rockets and stuff like that. And the most powerful rocket I got could travel a mile in 3 seconds. And this thing just traveled a mile in 2 seconds. So I'm like, wow, this thing can move, man. And it took off from the ground and hit that speed that quick. And then once it got out there, it stopped. You could just see a small dot out there about a mile away just sitting. And I was like, man, how odd is it going to get? And all of a sudden, next thing I know, the lights went out. I thought, okay, here we go again. So I'm kind of doing my job. I'm hooking up my hose. I'm like, I got to do my job while I'm here as well. I can't just sit out here and UFO watch all night. So I'm doing my job when I'm not seeing anything. And all of a sudden, I see the lights come back on closer over the field. So I stop what I'm doing. I stop my loading process and stuff. And all of a sudden, this time it does something that it's never done before. This thing starts moving straight at me. And I mean, it's slowly coming at me. And finally, not only can I see lights, I can see portions of the craft itself coming at me. And I'm up on top of the tank. And then I was up on the top of the tank, and I got a picture up there, and I'm going, holy, that's a great picture, man. That's the best picture I've got yet. And this thing was coming at me. And I looked up, and I could see this black disc outline moving between me and the stars in the sky. It's a clear night. And man, you talk about, that's a scary sight. I mean, it was like a shock scare. It was like, oh, crap. It was like the edge of the disc was like 20 feet like away from my area, moving towards me. And when I seen the edge of that disc blocking the stars out and realizing that what I was looking at was a compartment underneath the thing, and the disc was actually starting to move over the head of me, it scared me so bad. My knees went to shaking so bad. And I wanted to take off running, but I couldn't because my knees were just shaking. It was almost like I had a case of shell shock, like they get like military guys get. My brain is saying run, and my knees are just shaking so bad I can barely pull off a walk. And all I could do was stumble down the stairway and hide behind the separator. And I got my phone out, and I was just waiting. And I didn't know what was fixing to happen next. A big light came on, and inside a compartment underneath that thing, I swung around the side of that, my hiding spot, and I got a picture of it. And that's one of the most famous pictures that are really popular and made international news and stuff like that.
Well, how big around was this thing that you could see? I mean, the diameter, and how thick was it? I mean, were you able to, judge any of that?
It was way bigger than I at first thought it was, because what I was focused on was the compartment underneath the craft. And like I said, the edge of the disc moved over me, and the compartment of the thing was still 50 yards away. So I'm like, this thing has to be like 100 yards. It has to be huge. And, pretty good size, man. I mean, it's got to be like either 50 to 100 yards wide, the whole thing. Because the disc, that part of it was still a good ways from me. And the edge of the disc was moving over the stars overhead. So it's way bigger than I thought it was. And when that white light came on, it wasn't a light, it was like a luminescence inside a compartment underneath the craft. And I looked in there, and I seen the inside of that thing illuminated, and there was something standing in the portal window, scary looking as hell, looking out. And man, I tell you what, my knees went to shaking even harder then. And I was sitting there, and I looked around at the darkness around me, and I thought, man, anytime now something with long, slimy fingers is going to grab my ass. And it was a horrifying situation to be in. I'm lucky I managed to get a picture of it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You should have sent that over to me. I would love to have seen it.
Yeah, it's. I think in our text there, it's one of the pictures that I seen in there, but I can post it up. There's no problem.
Yeah.
But
now, hey, if people want to see what you have, I take it you have your own website?
Yeah, the best way to see what I got is I always deal with skeptics, saying I created these images and stuff like that. And you can go to Injure. There's a website called Injure, INGUR, and some skeptics had they wanted to try to debunk me, and